for answering a question incorrectly. There was this terrible teacher who would make you stand up in the class and say "I'm a twit" if you answered the question she asked you wrong. It's a terrible thing to instill in kids, to be afraid to make a mistake and to attempt to humiliate them for trying. 5th or 6th grade, I told a friend I liked a girl or had a crush on this girl. He wrote her a love letter, signed my name and slid it in her locker. The next morning I got called to the office. My teacher was there, with another teacher holding the note, asked me why I'd done this. I didn't do that, I said. They got my notebook to compare the handwriting, completely different, but they insisted it was identical. I gave up after about 30 minutes and accepted my punishment of 1 day lunch detention, eat lunch alone, whatever. 2 days later I found out who did it. Ha ha ha, good times. Why would you get in trouble for this? It makes no sense. I've been asking myself the same question for 20 years now. The girl got upset, guess this seemed like it was justified. Getting beat up by 2 other kids in the bathroom. When I was in 5th grade, we were doing our end-of-year testing, so we were supposed to be well-behaved and serious. They gave us a bathroom break, so a large group of boys all went. When I came out of the stall, one kid grabbed me from behind and held my arms behind my back, and another kid kept punching me in the stomach and chest. My teacher came storming in, everyone dispersed, and she grabbed me by the arm and dragged me back to class. I was forced to write the 2 boys, who beat me up, an apology letter. She threatened to have me expelled from the entire school district if I didn't, and never gave me the chance to explain myself. Me being a 5th grader, I thought I had to listen to her, and I was always too afraid to tell my parents out of fear of getting in trouble. The 2 boys never got in trouble, I was the only one who did, and I was never allowed to explain my side of the story. Edit. Wow, thanks for the support and compassion, guys. I've told this story a few times on Reddit, and never really received much support from anyone. Thank you guys. As a parent, I keep drilling into my head to my kids that they gotta come to me if shit like this happens. That as long as they tell the truth I will defend them to the death. My daughter gets it, my son? I'm not so sure of. You're 100% doing the right thing as a parent. Unfortunately mine weren't like that. My dad was old-fashioned and believed adults over his kids at times. Also, it didn't help that my brother lied to my parents often, and as a result of that they didn't trust any of us kids. In 7th grade I found a notebook in the hallway and turned it into my teacher. I was suspended for 3 days because there was a drawing of a centaur holding a pitchfork and they deemed that as gang-related. This is in Atlanta, so, no gangs matching that description here. You haven't heard of the Centaurian Pitchforkers? They were long gone by this point. Wiped out in a savage gang war with the Minotaur Scythes. No, that was the Cyclops Clubbers. The Minotaur Scythes wiped out the Basilisk Ball Throwers. Elementary school. Was in the bathroom stall taking a dump during lunch. Someone runs in and starts kicking all the stall doors into where it becomes a pain for kids my age, at the time, obviously, to open them. Kerblam, door swings in toward me just a bit and gets stuck. I'm trying my best to get the damn door open to no avail. Don't remember how long I was in there alone just crying, but one of the lunch aides comes to lock the door to the bathroom for the day, hears me, gets me out of there, then proceeds to yell at me for being in the bathroom at that time. She goes so far as to take me to the office to have my mother called in, which they do instead of letting me explain myself. When she shows up and I explain myself to her, she gets irate and tears everyone in the school office a new one. No matter what I did from then on, I never had my mother called while I was there. One of the best things that happened to me in middle school specifically was that my mom was really active at the school and knew a lot of the administration. This meant that in any situation where I would get in trouble they'd have the knowledge that this is Mrs. this _ godson. I never acted out, but it definitely helped with bullies. Well, it helps to be literally Jesus. We got 25 questions for homework. I did 24 questions but didn't understand question 25. The teacher gave me 20 lines signed by my parents for not doing my homework. Were the lines, if I don't understand, I should make something up instead of asking for help. What could possibly go wrong? Flipped the monitor screen upside down, Ctrl+Alt+Arrow key, got banned from using any school computer for the rest of the year. I remember a classmate doing this to another classmate. Everybody made fun of when he walked away to pick something up from the printer. He got back, and was very confused. I felt bad for the kid, because I was once that bullied kid for no reason. So, I walked over and fixed it for him before he got back. The teacher saw this, thought I was messing with his work and was about to send me RISS room, until the people sitting next to him spoke out and said someone else was trying to fuck with him and I was fixing it. I love the International Space Station room. Throwing grass, they told me it could have landed in someone's throat and shocked them to death. Who the fuck were your teachers? Anti-vax or conspiracy theorists? No, they were anti-grassers. I don't know about you but I pass on grass. Are you a pothead fucker? When I was in the 6th grade I had a doctor's appointment on a test day so I came in late. My teacher sent me to a neighboring classroom to take the test while they went over the answers. On the very last question I ended up doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo and the teacher of the neighboring classroom happened to look over at me as my pencil was going back and forth between answers. She stopped her whole class and yelled, "Did you just do eeny meeny miny mo?" Me thinking I had just committed murder told her no, so she freaked out and called my teacher, outraged. I had a very nervous walk back to my classroom and my teacher was just like sup and didn't even mention it. Edit, I wasn't saying it out loud, I was doing it in my head and she assumed I did it based on my pencil moving back and forth between the two answers. Which makes it even more stupid of a freak out. WTF. Like has she never guessed on a test answer before? Yawning. I was in math class and while the teacher was doing a problem, I yawned. Not loudly, not exaggeratedly. I just covered my mouth and did a silent yawn. Teacher saw and literally stopped teaching and stared me down. I turned red and just sat there and she squared her shoulders and said, "Since you aren't going to apologize for disrespecting me, you can get out of my classroom. It's too boring here anyways for you, I suppose." I was confused and asked why and she said, "You're just too smart to be here, so get out." I went to the office and couldn't tell them why I was in trouble. When the teacher called down she said I yawned and looked bored. The principal wasn't very happy with her reason and scolded her before sending me back to class but still. What the fuck? LMAO. The principal wasn't very happy with her reason and scolded her. Looking at this thread I'm glad I haven't had any of these teachers. There were these two sisters who bullied me and my best friend for months. We went to the principal many times and nothing was ever done about it. One day they were following us around after school talking shit and finally I turned around and said something along the lines of them being fat and to leave us alone. I know it's a shitty comeback especially compared to all the things they were saying but whatever. My friend went home and minutes later they jumped me from behind in the main lobby and I got a 2-day suspension for instigating the fight. Not me but a classmate. Dude got in trouble for following the rules perfectly. When I was in 8th grade I had a teacher who was super strict, like a total control freak and wouldn't let anyone so much as speak without raising their hand and being acknowledged. One day, the teacher was particularly distracted and a kid raised his hand to go to the bathroom. Now this kid was notorious for not giving a single fuck, even by 8th grade standards. I'll never know why, but instead of just breaking the rules and getting the teacher's attention, he sat in silence for a few minutes, put his hand down, and straight up pissed himself. I think it was in protest of her ridiculous zero tolerance for anything at all policy but I'll never know for sure. The best part of the story? He waited until she was finished doing whatever it was at her desk and raised his hand and asked if he could call home for new shorts. The teacher obviously asked why, and he responded by telling her he pissed himself because he didn't have permission to use the bathroom and didn't say anything because he wasn't given permission to speak. You could literally see how mad the teacher was because he technically didn't break any rules and couldn't be punished. That didn't stop her from writing him up for pissing himself, which if I remember correctly the office threw it out when he explained the situation. From that point on, the new rule in the classroom was, if there's an emergency, just quietly go relieve yourself. Absolute mad lad, props for that dude. Honestly, he freaking made pissing yourself cool. Being bullied. Schools don't know how to deal with bullies and blame the victim instead. Much easier, they don't argue back. For once, my Midwestern high school can put a feather in its cap. There was a bully in my class nagging on a poor introverted upperclassman. Non-stop harassment all period, study hall, lunch? I don't remember. She calmly stands up, grabs her books, walks over to him, and bashes his head with a full swing of her belongings. He starts wailing to the nearest teacher. His response? What did you do to deserve it? I was the introvert. Had a chick that bullied everyone, but loved to harass me. The day she put her hands on me to shove me, I went to the teacher and said I wouldn't let her push me again without defending myself. She shrugged and told me do what you need to do. Next day, she stole my shoe, and pushed me when I tried to get it back. I pushed her against the wall and yelled in her face to never touch me again. We were told to go sit down. Assistant principal came to talk to us. She tried to play it off as a little horseplay. Got called to the principal's office later by myself. I told them everything the bitch did. She got expelled. I was known as the kid who got his book taken away so he could converse with the others. Also got my book taken away. Would bring a decoy book to give to the teacher, and would read the book inside of the book for the class. Worked all year until a student told the teacher. Same, got books taken away all the time. I'd get in trouble a lot for reading lol. But it was also how I made friends in high school. I was reading Halo, The Flood I believe, and this kid asked me about it. He then introduced me to his friends and hilarity ensued. I was around 8 at the time, sitting in our school assembly, with everyone singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Little me thinking I was hilarious, sang out, used to laugh and call him names, like Fish Face, and then laughed at my amazing wit. My teacher instantly gave me daggers, and tells me I have after-school detention. So I'm annoyed sitting in detention, forced to write out the lyrics to the song over and over, thinking wow, this woman is passionate about Rudolph. After 45 minutes I mustered up the courage to ask what's so bad about saying fish face. As it turns out she thought I said fuck face. Still had to stay in detention for another half hour. One time my best friend at the time and I, both female, exchanged a hug at recess because we were in different classes. One of my teachers sent us to the wall where we had to stand for 30 minutes alone, because she claimed by hugging we were trying to turn on our male friends. We were in grade 6. Teacher probably had some suppressed feelings. Illegal feelings. Cursed_feelings. Parent got called in because I farted in class. Must have been a doozy, some real chemical warfare. Mine are. I have a gluten intolerance, which means if I eat some gluten and fart, anyone within 10 feet will run out of there within seconds. Farted once during class but didn't admit to it, whole class rushed to open the windows and then my half of the room shifted and went to the right half of the room to escape the smell. Also, one kid truly didn't believe I was intolerant to gluten and that my farts were that bad, so right before gym I ate 2 slices of pizza and 6 cookies. We then enter the boys' locker room and are locked in there for 8 minutes. I'll leave the rest up to your imagination. BTW, if you're wondering what the smell is, it would be like taking rotten deviled eggs from a sulfur farm, increasing the concentration, and then putting it in an aerosol spray. Edit. Changed allergic to intolerant for those who find it offensive that I changed a single word to make it easier to understand. For those of you who don't know much about gluten intolerances and celiac, basically the latter is worse, but the first is still bad. I have the first, but I wrote allergy to simplify it, which angered some. Read, people with celiac, which BTW isn't an allergy either, so I'm changing it to intolerance. How many survivors? I don't leave survivors. Some guy pushed his friend down the stairs in elementary and said guy landed on me, got detention for missing an important lesson while I was out cold in the infirmary. I got a lollipop as an apology for the detention after it was explained though. A big lollipop. How big are we talking? It was the size of my elementary-aged face. Our principal's husband was a candy maker. An elementary school principal and a candy maker. Are we sure this couple isn't just kidnapping dozens of children? It's not candy from strangers if the guy openly flirts with your principal. In 6th grade the teacher ripped up my assignment in front of the class and gave me detention because I didn't wait until I was home to do my homework. That's messed up. All through my school years I tried to finish my homework in class. Do they want to waste your time? Yeah, actually. Yeah, they fucking do. Grade 7, one kid made fun of another kid, the wrong kid, and wrong kid pulled him out of his chair and pinned him to the ground and started yelling at him. Then he started bashing his head against the tile floor. There was lots of blood like immediately. I wasn't thinking, I just ran over from my chair and tackled the kid who was doing the smashing off the guy on the floor. As soon as the fight had started the teacher ran from the room and got the principal, and they both ran back and in the door. Just in time to see my tackle. Next thing I know the principal was pulling me off of the other kid and literally carrying me to his office. I was pretty upset. I never did well with violence, so I just cried in his office. I was confused from the whole thing. But once I calmed down he asked me what happened and pretty much the second I opened my mouth he called me a liar and said he saw everything and knew what I did and couldn't believe I of all people would do that. I couldn't get a word in to tell my story. The kid who had his head slammed was taken to the hospital. I was told that and really only that, and how serious what I did was. They called my parents and said I did it and they needed to come at once and get me. I was suspended and likely would be expelled. I couldn't believe it. When my mom got there she just told me not to say anything. She was crying and said she never thought I'd do such a thing. When I got in the car I swore up and down I didn't do anything. I think she believed me, but she cried the whole car ride home. I sat and stewed. I don't know how long it took them to actually talk to the kids in the class after that. Certainly it didn't happen in the hour or whatever it was between when the incident happened and I got sent home, but it should have been the first thing. There was a call to my mom apologizing to her, and saying I actually did the right thing. And then at the end of the school year, like a month later, they gave me some community award at the end of year assembly for what I did. But I never forget the initial reaction when they had me scared I'd be kicked out of school for doing what I thought was the right thing. Just reminded me of primary school. I have a name that wasn't that common back in the 90s, but there was another girl in my school with the same name. She was really rough and came from a bad family. One day my parents had to come into school to see the head teacher because I had spat on a dinner lady and attacked her. I never did this. I used to just sit quietly and eat my packed lunch. My parents obviously were all, why would she lie? She wouldn't, but at the same time it was properly out of character and I was so adamant and crying that I didn't do it. My parents didn't know what to think because the head teacher said it was definitely me. The dinner lady knew my name, but even my year teacher was confused and saying she would never imagine me doing this. Trying to go to the library during lunch. They said I needed a hall pass. Fine, I went and got one. Then they were upset because the hall pass didn't have an end time on it, but the teacher who gave me the pass was the same class I'd return to after lunch. It was a split-period class, and when I tried to show them my schedule to prove that, they sent me to the principal's office for insubordination. I just wanted to do some research for a paper. Joke's on them, that teacher ended up just giving me several pre-signed passes because, in his words, that is just really dumb. I really don't understand the whole US concept of hall passes. So fucking weird. Going to college and finding out that you can just get up and leave whenever you want, mental explosion. Now thinking back to high school, it's crazy that you'd have to basically interrupt class to go to the bathroom. At the time, I thought it was cool that a couple of my high school teachers' bathroom policy was just get up and go, and now I realize it was probably for their own sanity. Even with the just get up and go policy, I still felt obligated to tell the teacher where I was going just so I didn't have to hear my name yelled out on the intercom in typical high school fashion. 8th grade. Our school had a weird layout where you had to walk through classrooms to get to another classroom. As I was passing through one, I was telling my friend how this new video game is freaking awesome. Teacher pulls me aside and asks what I said. I told her I said it was freaking awesome and she scolded me for using a substitute for a bad word. What? Dis bitch ain't even my teacher and she's telling me I can't use a substitute? I asked her, what about darn or heck? Aren't though they technically substitutes? She got all red in the face and huffy and said, go to the principal's right now for talking back. I told her I would be late for class, which is right through that door. She didn't appreciate the added defiance and grabbed my bicep and dragged me into the classroom. She told my teacher what I said and yelled, discipline him however you feel is necessary. My teacher nodded and she huffed out of the room. My teacher bent down and whispered that she gets grouchy in the mornings. Just be careful what I say when I pass her, and that was that. Eventually, like a decade after I was done with school, I realized how many teachers I had who got away with all sorts of behavior that would have ended their jobs if they'd done them to an adult. Imagine if she dragged a coworker by the arm across the room. But because they're done to minors, everyone just smiles and nods. My 4th grade teacher got so mad that a friend of mine didn't get what we were trying to accomplish while writing an essay after telling him nicely multiple times how to do it, which was actually only like twice, in a very stern voice. She yelled at him and ripped his essay up in front of everyone, which made him cry. There were lots of instances like this throughout the year. The next year in 5th grade we didn't see her anymore. I'm just sad it took that long.